Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Neville class, session number 8, study class. And it is a study class that we are going through the law and the promise. And Nina, can you mute yourself, my lovely? Because I can't mute you from my end for some reason. Nina? Can you mute yourself, please? Nina, for some reason you are not hearing me. Please mute your microphone because there's noise coming through and you're the only one that's not muted, my lovely. Okay, so I'm going to start reading. And for those of you that are new, you can ask a question. You can just put your little cartoon hand up. And we're on chapter 11, Sabina. Chapter 11, the potter. Nina, can you please mute yourself? There's noise coming through and there is no one else that's unmuted. So if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Okay, Nina, can you please mute yourself? I don't know why you're not hearing me. Okay. No, there's still noise coming through. Nina, can you please mute yourself? I'm not able to mute you for some reason, and the noise is coming through. Okay, for some reason it is not working. Charlie, you need to mute yourself as well, please. There's still noise coming through. It's really distracting when we're trying to read. That's better. Okay, now the potter. Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will let you hear my words. So I went down to the potter's house, and there he was working at his wheel. And the vessel he was making of clay was spoiled in the potter's hand. And he reworked it into another vessel as it seemed good to the potter to do. The word translated potter means imagination. Out of material things others would have thrown away as useless, an awakened imagination refashions it as it ought to be. O Lord, thou art our Father, we are the clay, and thou art our potter. We are all the work of thy hand. So this conception of creation as a work of imagination, and the Lord our Father, our imagination, will take us further into the mystery of creation than any other guide. So again, as with Neville, imagination creates reality is a big theme in a lot of his books. And today it is the theme specifically to remind ourselves that we can use our imagination to continue, if something's not to your liking, to change it. Like the potter changed what he was doing. He was creating one vessel and then he decided to condense it back down and create something else. So we as individuals and human beings can do that also, especially if something is on the outside confronting you and you think that is not to my liking. Now, if it is to your liking, no problem. But if it isn't, then it is important to use your imagination to change or to recreate something that is just much better and to make it as you would like it to be. Now, continuing on. The only reason people do not believe in this identity of God and human imagination is that they are unwilling to assume the responsibility for their frightful misuse of imagination. So if there's something in front of you that's not to your liking, then what that tells you is you've put the focus on something and you've thought about it, and then you might have talked about it to friends or family, and then you might have kept watering the plant and fertilized a plant that you perhaps didn't want to grow. But what's great is, and what Neville teaches us, is that you can change things with a change in thought, with a change in focus, with a change in deliberately using your imagination. You can change whatever you are currently going through that is not of your choice. You have preferences. See if you can use this in a way to bring forward what you prefer. And then your life just gets easier and easier, and then your situations become more fun, more relaxed, more nourishing, because you're fertilizing wants rather than don't wants. Now, divine imagination has descended to the level of human imagination, so that human imagination may ascend to divine imagination. Okay? So it's like we have divine imagination within us, but we've got so caught up in the 3D that we have become fixated with what we see with our eyes, what we hear with our ears, and we are, in a way, trapped by our senses, those that don't know about this work. So, and we all start there because we are human and we see problems and we have emotional reactions, and then those emotional reactions then go out, and then that brings us more situations or keeps us gridlocked in things we don't enjoy. Now that's let's say, awakening that this is something that you can change through really seeing the importance of the mental diet, really practicing with deliberate intent, deliberate focus, deliberate also understanding that it is what we choose with the eyes, hear with the ears. It is those things, because as we know, it is a focus-based universe. What we focus on then gets dragged towards us. So if there's something that's not great, the best thing you can do, don't talk about it, don't focus on it, try and pull your attention away from it as best you can and put it on something that makes you feel good, or an imaginal scene that is exactly the opposite, or perhaps exactly what you want. Now, the 8th Psalm says that man was made a little lower than God, not a little lower than the angels, as the King James Version mistakenly translates it. Angels are the emotional dispositions of man and are therefore his servant and not his superior, as the author of Hebrews tells us. Now, imagination is the real man and is one with God. So Neville often talks about the old man, and the old man is where you are stuck in your old thinking, your old negative, repetitive, habitual thought processes, and on particular subjects such as relationships, such as, let's say, money, dream job, my body condition. We have repetitive, habitual grooves that we have really gone over and over and over, and then we get certain repetitive outcomes, or we get no change, as in something is consistently not to your liking for a year, 2 years, 5 years, a decade. Now, prior to knowing about this, it's like you're waiting for the external to change so that you can feel better. When you start doing the work of in particular, Neville, as we're talking about today, you become deliberate. You become someone who understands that imagination creates reality, that your emotions create what goes on and what comes to you again and again and again. And therefore, once you know that, you don't let your mind wander around doing whatever it wants. You actually choose to be someone who goes, oh, I'm not going to be standing here doing the dishes and being resentful towards my ex, my mother, my brother, my boss, because that's going to cost me, and it's going to straighten the jacket around me, tighten the belt around me, because it is a cause and effect. Some people call it karma. There are lots of different ways to describe it, but in the end, it's just us holding on to the same thoughts, the same mental diet, the same emotions about that particular subject. So the good thing is, if you want to change, you can create the change by being conscious of what you're thinking and more deliberate about what you're choosing. And then you can break free, which is really good. Now, imagination creates, conserves, and transforms. Imagination is radically creative when all imaginative activity based on memory disappears. So imagine, I'm going to just go through that again because it's quite wordy. As we know with Neville, that's often the way that it is. So imagination creates. You think about something, it goes forward as energy, pictures, and it attaches itself to something, and then it brings it back to you. Okay, that's how imagination creates. It conserves and it transforms. So depending on if you can switch gears, that's when the transformation happens. That's when the shift happens. That's when the relationship improves. That's when you lose the weight. That's when your boss leaves and some amazing other person that you get on with shows up. The transformation has to happen first in imagination, then in emotion, then in what you project. The law of projection takes over, and then the law of attraction photocopies it. So law of assumption, change what you've been assuming. Law of projection, energy that goes out. Law of attraction brings back evidence. Okay? Now, imagination is conservative when its imaginal activity is fed with images supplied mainly by memory. Okay, so simple sentence, but let's go over it again. Imagination is conservative. So when its imaginal activity is fed with images supplied mainly by memory. So in terms of what you put your imagination on, your imaginal activity, whatever you feed it with, okay, whatever, think about, say, the last 24 hours. What have I been feeding my imagination? What have I been thinking about the most? Has it been something that's been making me feel really good? Or is it something that's actually made me feel angry, resentful, hurt, heartbroken, sad? Or joy, fun, excited, absolutely free, adventurous? Like, which have I been in? So the memory part he's talking about here, fed with images supplied mainly by memory, what we usually do is go back over stuff that's just happened, whether it's a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a decade ago, sometimes even further back. So supplying the imagination with just stuff from memory, if you're feeding it with just good memories, no problem. If you're festering on old memories that are causing you disturbances, that's maybe some fertilizer you want to take back to the shop and get some new fertilizer, because that's going to make your plant grow. So whatever you have got going on, have a look at, am I supplying myself with memories from the past? And are those memories good? If the answer is no, because a lot of us are negative by nature, You go, well, how can I replace what I'm pulling from the past with something better? And that's when you start creating, you're drawing from non-memory imaginal scenes. What does that mean? It means memories past, imaginal scenes brand new, created from today. So you may go, hang on, I can't really go back to the past to imagine I am so free at work that I feel amazing and I'm making heaps of money, because that's never happened to me before. I've always been working too hard and getting paid too little, so I can't draw from the memories of the past. I have to create a brand new memory, because a brand new imaginal scene, that's a bit more better worded. You have to create a brand new imaginal scene because you've got no memories to pull from that are positive. Another way you can do it, if you haven't got your own memories, you might have witnessed someone in your family and your friends that had that amazing job, that had a fantastic amount of money and just seemed to breeze through life while everyone else was struggling and complaining about this particular topic. There was that one person that seemed to make money when there was a collapse in the economy. There might have been someone who, no matter what they picked in terms of work, they were always picking things that just, they were on the crest or on the cusp of new and wonderful things. So you can use other people's memories if they were quite close to you and you know enough about it. So that's another way to do it, especially if it was someone you knew well and you had a really good relationship with, because that will be something that's marinated in the right juice, so to speak. Now, imagination, oh no, we've read that bit. Imagination is transformative when it varies a theme already in being. When it mentally alters a fact of life, when it leaves the fact out of the remembered experience, or puts something in its place if it upsets the harmony that it desires. And that's like what I was just talking about. If you're pulling it from a memory that was, you're reinfecting yourself with a memory again and again of something that was negative, then it upsets the harmony that it desires. So your desire is to have harmony. Your desire is to feel free, to feel happy, to feel loved, to have money, to feel joyful, to feel content. All of these things are across the board desires for pretty much everyone in every country in the world. It's like we're all very similar in that way. We want peace. We want calm. We want to be loved. We want to be free. We want to go to bed at night and not be worried and concerned about bank accounts, whether someone loves us, whether we can afford to go on a holiday because we haven't had one for 10 years. All these things around the world, we similarly would like for us and our loved ones, you see. So if you can really look at and see the power in you in regards to, I can mentally alter a fact of life. So if the fact of life is I've got $100,000 worth of debt, that's not set in stone for the next 5 years unless you keep thinking the same thoughts that you've been thinking for the last 5 years as to how long you've had that debt. So if you want to change in the bank account, you have to change your mental thoughts about money. If you want to change in your relationship with whoever you would like to be in relationship with, you must change your mind. You must focus your diet, your mental diet on desires, as in what you want, not what you don't want. Because sometimes people think, in my experience, they think they're thinking about what they want. It's like, I'll never forget, there was a time I was sitting with a girlfriend about, it would have been 20 years ago when I was sort of not doing that great in terms of what I wanted to manifest. And we went, I'll never forget it. We went to an Indian restaurant. She's sitting opposite me, and this was a very powerful 1-minute conversation. She said, oh, you know, you said you wanted to go on holidays. I said, yeah. And I said to her with this face, I went, oh, I really want to go to India, and I just haven't got the money. And I had that look on my face. And she looked at me and she said, do you want some help? I said, yeah. She says, you're never going to get there with that face and that energy. And that day, that night, while we were having Indian food, she explained to me, because she was very good with money, she was very good with travel, she was very good with business, that my vibe, my energy, oh, I really want to go there, but I can't. It was just this whole vibration of anguish, you know. So that 1 to 5 minute conversation we had that night, I will remember it for the rest of my life. And what was funny is, about 3 months ago, when I was in Australia, we went back to that restaurant and we remembered that conversation. And I said to her, you will never know what you gave me that day. And she said, because she's quite introverted and she's not a show off and doesn't need attention. So she said to me, well, I'm glad it helped you. And I said, not only did it help me, I finally understood why you've been doing well and so many people around you haven't. So it was terrific. Now, MMM, I'm going to answer your question. Before I do that, let me just comment on what Justice said. Justice, yes, good point. Joseph Murphy suggests to say the affirmation out loud to help correct the habitual thoughts faster. Nice. Yes. Love the little Joseph Murphy. He's wonderful too. So the question is, Agnes talked about ignoring thoughts one doesn't want, but how can you make this easier if people in your 3D are constantly in your face reflecting more of your 3D? I've been trying to convince my family for something, but keep reverting to 3D because the constant resistance. Well, you can't try and convince. That's coming from control. So you've got your ladder up the wrong wall, MMM. You're not trying to get anyone to do anything. You're trying to get yourself into the state of having what you want. You think these other people are stopping you from getting where you want to go, and no one's stopping you from anything. It's you that keeps focusing on them being in your face, which means, one, you don't have boundaries if that's the case, and that's something you might need to work on. Secondly, you'll get to the point where you do your internal work, you launch your wish fulfilled, and you let go and surrender. And if anyone says anything after that, you're not bothered by it. So you're just getting stuck trying to do external work when it's the internal work that needs to be done. Okay? So if you're reverting back to constant resistance, that means you're not holding your thought and your imaginal scene in your meditation time long enough for it to grow roots, because you think the external has to change for the inside for me to get relief. And it's not that. You have to get relief on the inside. You have to feel secure on the inside. You have to believe that you can have what you want on the inside, and then the external will show you the change. Okay? So always an inside job, always an inside job. Thank you, Justice, for putting the page number in the complete reader. Yes, good.
You're welcome.
There's some people that have got, a lot of people have got that book actually. So yeah, it's almost like when you read Neville, you can read it, understand it with your eyes and your ears, but getting it to drop into your situations and your life, that takes practice. Now, you know, If we've learned to speak a language, ride a bike, this is no different. This is just another thing. But it does take practice, and it is a humbling experience, because anyone can start stuff, but not very many people continue. And when you continue and you continue and you continue, little bits each week, not going like a bull at a gate. Remember, the turtle wins the race. If you just do a night or two, you do learn a little bit, but it's not just the learning, it's the application. How do I apply this stuff to what I've got going on? And that's where you will start to really, it's not like it's so easy to listen to someone else's success story, but it's proving it to yourself with your own success story that I think where the real power is. Other people's success stories are inspiring, but proving it to yourself, that's elation. Now, continuing on.
Agnes, could I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Agnes. How are you?
Hello, Gayatri. Good.
So, yeah. This statement that you said that everyone starts doing it, but not much people continue till the end of it. I could feel that. So when I have some desire and I'm like, whether I'm trying to manifest a relationship or I'm trying to pursue my education or something, and when you do the imaginal work or you do your affirmations and you do working on it, and then you stop in between thinking that, okay, now I don't want it. It's not, you just forget that it's all about whenever you're doing it, it is just like you want to get that person or you want to get that thing. We are not realizing that it is a continuous work and it's a continuous mental diet. When we lose the interest on the bright, shiny object, we stop doing this work. So what happens is, I feel personally, this sits as a block that I tried it last time and I left it and it didn't work. And it creates a block in my mind. And I think many people would have had the same experience. What is your take on that?
Can you explain it a little bit more?
I'm just saying that the more we try and we just give it up, then we again try to manifest a relationship or whatever, money or whatever. And you get the memory of the past, because you go into the memory of your failure, right? Because you were not able to manifest it last time. And you lost the interest on the thing or something, and you give it up. So what happens is, you have a negative story about it, and it sits as a belief that I cannot manifest. So it becomes like a block, right? So, and when we are doing this again, when you start doing the Neville's work, when you start reading Law and the Promise or whatever book, Power of the Spoken Word or whatever Neville's book or anything, then when we start doing, we get that block, and it's like another block that we need to sit and clear. That's what I want.
What that tells you is, I am reinfecting myself with the past situation and I'm bringing it into the present. And the way to bypass that is to spend a bit of time doing revision. I mean, Neville talks a lot about that the issues that people have today, the suffering that they experience, is unrevised scenes of the past. So there has to be a point where you sit down and you go, okay, what am I resentful about? What's bugging me? Am I angry at money? Am I angry at my mother? Am I resentful at my boss taking advantage of me? Am I feeling exploited that I work too many hours and I don't get enough pay? Or do I feel really unloved and unwanted and abandoned by that person? So whatever it is, you have got still like a fishhook in your neck about certain things that happened back then, and that's what you're using as an excuse to stop you focusing on what you got going on today that you would like to create. So as hard as that sounds, as in, I got to take responsibility for that, it's not about beating yourself with a stick, but it's saying, I am using my past failures as a handbrake to get to where I want to go today. Am I willing to spend a bit of time each week to revise the scenes that I still have resentment about, that I still feel angry about, that I still feel hurt about, that I still feel brokenhearted about? Have I done the revision work? And have I done it enough that when I think about that person, that boss, my bank account, my mother, my sister, my brother, have I got a neutral state emotionally now? If you can say yes, that is you that's unhooked yourself from the fish hook. And you now can step into having another go at having a relationship, getting a dream job, whatever it is. So it's not bowing down to your, well, because that happened to you before, that's never going to work out for you now. It's like, well, hang on. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm a new person that's got some more knowledge. Now it's for me to rise up and apply that knowledge to that thing. And I got to be consistent, and I got to look at, do I need to process my emotions? Do I need to do inner child work? Do I need to do affirmations? Do I need to use ho'oponopono? Do I need to do more self-love? Where am I not being consistent because my mental diet is kicking my butt? And if the mental diet's kicking your butt, you have allowed yourself to go over and over repetitive, habitual, negative thought patterns that are comfortable but uncomfortable. Familiar, that's probably a better word than comfortable.
Yeah, but this one thing, mental diet.
Yeah.
That is the one thing. The one thing.
It's the most important thing.
Important thing.
Yeah. It's the biggest thing.
It's not whether I'm going to get my desire or not. Now it's like I'm training my mind to be in the state of the wish fulfilled.
Beautiful.
Whether I'm getting it or not, I want to be already that.
Yeah. But Gayatri, you and I have spoken a bit lately. And remember, I said to you, if you can do your medical training and become a doctor, there is no reason why you can't do this. Because that takes years and hours of study and focus and consistency. So you've already got that in your nature. And remind yourself, if I can do that, then I can be as focused and as disciplined with this. Yeah.
So, this last statement,
yeah.
I think, people reflect what is running in in your mind. This is what Neville says, right? While we started the session, we spoke lately and you said the statement. It was there. Gayatri, you can. She's told this to you. And now you're telling me.
Well, see, I'm you pushed out. There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
We do this. It's like we dovetail together, you see. Wonderful stuff. I love that. Nice. Good one. Justice, sweet Justice. You have your little hand up.
Hi, Agnes. I was just going to say that one of the first things that you see or read whenever you're doing the Louise Hay workbook is that a lot of us have those thought patterns of not being deserving of good. And so that's why we don't keep up with our mental diet and affirmations and be consistent with the things that we know are going to better our lives. So I was just going to chime in and say that.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what do you think the answer is? Because of that, what do you think is a remedy?
Yeah, so I specifically focused on those and helping build that belief so that I could go in and work on whatever affirmations help support that self-love journey. Because I know without having that foundation that's going to help me get to where I need to be, it has to have a solid layer that's going to keep supporting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word, but the solid foundation, whatever we talked about, a cake, building a cake. Yeah. So having that be supporting of like the additional affirmations like needed to get me whatever desire I want.
Yes. And I do think, you know, as the years go by, you know, you might hit some really good patches where you feel really good and you don't do as many affirmations, or you might not meditate, or, you know, there are times where, you know, you just go, I need a break, or you've got a crisis, somebody in your family, something's going on with your friends and you're helping them. And so your stuff slides a bit because of life, you know. And I think that's okay. But it's just, if you feel yourself sliding mentally and emotionally, you know where the little red toolbox is, and you open it up and you get out what you need, and then you build yourself back up.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much.
Okay, let me just check. Well, Tinky can just type in the chat or put their hand up if they want to ask something. Or actually, if they can unmute themselves. I can't see them in here. No, I can't. Oh, yes, Tinky, if you unmute yourself, you can ask a question. Because for some reason I can't unmute you as well. Zoom's giving me, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, isn't it fantastic how well Zoom works tonight? Kathleen, you can see you laughing. Have to watch my thoughts. I can't be thinking bad things about Zoom. Oh. Okay, Tinky, you might want to write it in the chat then. Maybe you can't unmute yourself either. Helen, you've got your hand up.
I just did it for Twinky.
Oh, you did? Okay. Thank you, my love.
Setting my vibes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for some reason, let me just check and see. No. No, Tinky, you haven't written anything in the chat that I can see. So you might want to type something in there and I'll come back to you in a little bit. Justice, do you feel like reading?
If I could skip this session, that would be good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. We're not always in the mood. Does someone else feel like reading? I mean, I'm happy to read, but it's the sound of my own voice the whole time. It's nice to hear some of you. Tinky, it looks like you've unmuted yourself. Go ahead.
Yes, I had this question that basically, okay, I'm trying to manifest a specific person. And sometimes I get this thought that like, if this person was meant for me, or if he was like the one, like quote unquote, wouldn't he just like, wouldn't it be super easy, or like, wouldn't it be like very easy for him to like, you know, come into my life or whatever? Or sometimes I also have doubts about like, should I date other people, or should I like consider other people while I am trying to manifest this person? Or is that gonna like put me back in my manifestation for this specific person? I was wondering if you could like guide me on this.
Sure. Now, just let's say the first question again, because I've got a short attention span when there's more than one question at a time, because it's the end of my day. So you just repeat the first one and then I'll answer that.
I'm manifesting a specific person, and sometimes I just wonder that like if he was the one, because in manifesting, I think that like, you know, when it's the one or the guy that's for me, when he shows up, it's going to be super easy and supernatural. So with this guy, he kind of let me down easy, like when we talked about like getting together, and I felt like maybe he wasn't the one then, but then I do want to manifest this specific guy now. So I'm confused, like, should I go for him, or would it just be natural or easy since that was my manifestation with like someone else? So I don't know.
Not necessarily that it would be easy. Why? Because if you're, and I'm not saying you're these things, but I'm just giving you an example. If you're controlling, demanding, needy, insecure, fearful, then it doesn't matter if someone's meant for you. They're not going to put up with that. They're going to get suffocated and run away. So you have to look at and ask yourself the question, how much am I in a state of love? How much do I feel at least an 8 out of 10, 8, 9, 10? And how much? Yeah.
Sorry.
Answer. Go ahead.
to give you the full picture, I'm a single mom,
Yeah.
and he does kids. So his reservation is basically that I have a kid and he have like responsibility towards him, maybe if we got serious, stuff like that. So that's the issue with him. Like we haven't really dated per se yet. We just considered it. Like we had a very brief conversation. We just hit it off kind of. And
Okay,
we like
let me stop you.
Yeah.
What's your vibe towards him though? Not talking about externals. What is your vibe? Are you mainly in, relaxed, loving, secure, feeling good enough state,
Yeah.
or are you in another state?
No, so when we talk, it feels super easy and supernatural, which is why I thought like this guy was the one for me, you know, because it was very fun and easygoing and like it was super chill. So but then when we started talking about like actually dating and like seeing each other, it kind of got a little like, he was like, you know what, I'm not looking to like be in a relationship with someone who has kids because I feel like that's a lot of responsibility. And then I was kind of like, maybe I have to work. Maybe that's like feedback and I have to work on like myself, and like the idea that like, okay, I'm a single mom and people who don't have kids wouldn't want to be with me or something like that.
Okay. And that was my question to you. He reflects back to you where you're at. So
yeah,
if you've got, I'm a single mom, when you said that, I instantly thought, oh, not because I think that, but because I feel like you think it's a negative.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
why is being a single mom a bad thing?
I mean,
it's not a bad
like,
thing.
It feels like baggage for like a lot of people. Might feel like, oh, it's a lot of responsibility and we can't like, you know, put up with that. Or
but
can't,
that's your thoughts about other people. You're projecting that onto them. They are you pushed out. So you are getting a reflection of what you believe about being a single mom, and you think your child is baggage.
No, oh my God, no. I mean,
you know what okay. I know that sounded harsh, but
yeah,
it is your projection that creates how people see it.
Okay.
I know it's a hard pill to swallow. I know.
I mean, I do feel like people might see it like that because, okay, culturally where I come from, like people do technically like, I think it might be rooted in like my upbringing and culture.
Okay,
but yeah.
Okay, so let me stop you. It's in your culture. It's in your upbringing. You don't have to accept your culture or your upbringing if you don't agree with it. In my culture and upbringing, I'm French Italian. Everybody cheats on each other and sleeps with other people's partners when they're married. Oh God.
And Italian.
Okay, so you know, but we don't have to accept certain things about our cultures, you see. So yes. We don't have to go, that's in my culture, and I have to continue to believe that. Oh my God, I can be free of that? Fantastic. I'm a single mom. I'm really secure in myself. I have a beautiful child, and that child and me and my child are going to find the most wonderful man that fits in with what we are already doing.
Yeah.
Get into that state.
Okay.
Ask me your second question.
My second question was, should I date other people while manifesting this specific person? Or is that redundant?
It depends. It's not the same answer for every person. If you are using somebody else to fill in time and you're not really going to be fully available, no, don't do it. It's not fair. If you are going to be really open to someone new because you're not sure the SP is going to come around and you think, you know what? I actually would like to go and meet people and enjoy a conversation, a meal, and just really be free and happy. And I'm going to bring that to the table. I'm not going to be looking for anyone to look after me. Then the answer would be yes. So it depends. It's not the action that's the issue. It's what's fueling it underneath that's driving you to do it or not do it that you need to look at.
Okay, but in the second example, you said like, if I believe that SP is not going to come around and I'm looking for other people to genuinely commit or invest.
Yeah.
So it's okay to think that it might be a possibility that SP won't come around.
There's always a possibility that an SP won't come around. They have free will.
Okay.
So we can't control other people. We can influence through feeling loved and wanted and secure, but we can't control an SP, even though I know there are many people on YouTube that say you can. I think it's ignorant and actually controlling, and it's spiritually. Yeah, I think it's spiritually wrong. I think it's spiritually wrong to think that way about somebody. Yeah, but that's just me. I mean, each to their own. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. And good questions, because this comes up a lot. SP's not fully coming towards me. He's just said this. Hang on a minute. Now what do I do? And it's like, whatever you do, if you're doing it from a place of freedom and happiness and joy, and you feel good about yourself, and you don't need a man to complete your family because you feel like being single isn't great.
Yeah.
If you're doing it not from that place and you are genuinely stepping into something, I hear a lot of people go out on dates to distract from an ex or an SP.
No.
And that's not fair to the person who you're sitting opposite if you're doing it for that reason, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it sounds like you got your head screwed on fairly well. I think it's just get to the point where you let go of being single's a disease, and being single mom with a child's even worse. Start to see the beauty in that. Start to see that I now can attract someone really wonderful for the two of us, because I'm not making a choice just for me.
Yeah. So I don't know, sometimes I do definitely have that, like, now I feel like I'm in a place, because I've been able to like work on myself for such a long time now, that I feel like I'm finally in the place where I can attract someone healthy for me, and for my kid.
Good.
But sometimes I just fall back into, again, like, I guess it's like, because like I do get like surrounded by like family or like cultural, whatever, that like I feel like I do fall back into like that mentality sometimes, and I don't know, completely get rid of it.
Well,
so I should just
you just affirm, I am single, content, and secure, and I spread love wherever I go. And if you come from that place, the love just overflows. And if your family, it's like we get our beliefs from our families, but then we take them on and continue them on and pass them on to the next generation. I mean, I remember looking at my family and going, what the hell? Witnessing my auntie give her keys to her sister who's married to go and have sex with some guy for the afternoon at her sister's place, and no one finds out. And I'm witnessing all this. This is disturbing. French, Italian. This is part of my culture. Now, doesn't mean I have to act like that. And I do not subscribe to anyone that does that stuff, because that's not who I am. But culturally, that's what I come from. So there are things about our culture we adore, and other things you go, oh my goodness, no, thank you. But you can choose. You can choose. We don't have to accept what our culture, our religions, our communities do if that goes against what we would like to believe for ourselves. But you have to be strong enough mentally to break free.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been actually helpful.
Good.
Thanks a lot.
Good stuff.
Thank you for the comment. Okay.
No worries. Helen, have you still got your hand up from before, or is that a new hand?
I have so many hands. It just must be by accident. But for Twinky, I would say I can maybe share a success story that might help her. My friend, I told her about self-love and how to attract an SP that she wanted to date, an old one, which she's not with, but a new one showed up, and he didn't want to accept her children because she has 2 kids. And I told her that's your belief that men are not good, don't want me because I'm single mother. So I told her, why don't you just say that, you're confident, you're secure, and, you should be grateful you have those 2 children, and anybody would love to be around your presence with them. So the guy came back, and they're like actually talking and dating, and he's okay with the kids, the same guy. And then the old SP starts to call her and wants to date her now all of a sudden. So maybe that might inspire Twinky, or, it's a real story.
Yeah, it's good. And that's the thing. It's getting inspired by people's stories. But everything you see on the outside is a reflection of your beliefs. And
Exactly. Being single is not a disease. I told many of my relatives, and they look at me and they laugh. I say, I don't have a disease. I'm perfectly healthy.
Actually, that would make a good t-shirt range.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I think the best thing, I don't want to take people's time, is because we talk on the regular, on our own, is that self-love is the best key. And you know what? No, people have free will. But if you are strongly in your self-love and you walk with love for others, strangers, you know how I do, right? I send love to trees, plants, cars, anything. This is just how I'm a radar of love. people will want to be around you, even if they didn't in the beginning, because your self-love is what makes things come to you, you know, and people have free will. But if you're strong with yourself, you give them an example how beautiful it is to accept unconditional love. That is just from my experience. Hopefully I can help somebody, but I'm really number one on self-love. I mean, I think it's enough. You don't have to do anything, no scenes, no nothing. Just loving yourself is enough, because love is powerful.
It certainly is. Thank you,
Well,
Helen.
I don't have the book, also what I read for you.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, no problem at all, my lovely.
It was nice talking to you, Agnes.
You too, sweet
Soon
Helen.
I'll be sharing something soon. Soon, it's still
It's hatching. It's hatching.
It's still boiling.
There's a little crack on the eggshell and the little feathers are coming through, the little wet
It's boiling,
feathers.
but in the end, it's going to taste wonderful. And for others that are manifesting an SP, it doesn't matter how long other people took. It's okay to listen to the success stories and just say, you know, if they did it, I can. But don't try to say, well, I didn't get it yet because they got it faster. The longer it takes for me, Agnes, the better I become in my self-love, the stronger I am. And then now I'll be able to maintain anything with my self-love. So take it as a positive. The longer it takes, the better you become, the much stronger and wiser, and you'll learn more about yourself.
That's it, my lovely. That's it.
Thank you, Agnes, for everything.
Pleasure. Saray. Hello. I just got to turn you up. You're a bit faint. Yep, go ahead.
I have a quick question about how to approach like health whenever you're trying to manifest. So I've been having like back problems, and I've been like doing treatments and stuff. But the thing is that if you're like thinking of a state of like already being healthy, I just don't know how to like keep the mentality of like, oh, like, so if I'm healthy, why am I doing these treatments? You know, and like, I don't know if like continuing them is contradicting at all, if that makes sense. I just don't know like how to approach like continuing being on treatment.
Well, I think you can't sometimes just stop treatment when your mind's not strong enough to continue, you know. So I don't think there's anything wrong with continuing treatments and starting to work on the mental diet. Eventually you'll just go, you know what, I'm ready now. And you will feel, because you're ready, because you feel healthy, you will know that you feel energized, you feel good, you feel happy, you feel like you can get out of bed in the morning and not be feeling unwell. So I would say keep doing what you're doing. And of course, you know, treatment isn't stuff that probably any of us really want to do, but sometimes it's a good stepping stone. So if you can get the book, do some Louise Hay stuff and do some Joe Dispenza stuff, because they're the two, I think, top people. And also Brandon Bays, Brandon space Bays, and look them up on YouTube. A lot of health issues are rooted in emotional stuff that's still stuck in the body from the past. And a lot of it comes from resentment, anger, going over past memories, having issues with a specific person, a parent, a lover, a boss, you know, all those things accumulate in the body and then it blows out and creates a health issue. The exceptions to that would be, say, you live near power lines where there's a company blowing off a whole bunch of pollution, and then that's obviously external. But I think most of health conditions, they come from the stuff we do to ourselves on the inside, mentally first, emotionally, and we keep going over and over these things. That's why the health condition continues. So if you can sit down and write a list of stuff that you are resentful about, people that you have issues with, people you haven't forgiven, forgiveness is a big one as well. So yeah, I would start with that.
Yes, I agree, because the thing is that maybe like 3 years ago I had thyroid issues, and then I thought that would be over, and now like it's back issue. So I'm like, there's no I'm like, me mentally, I'm like, there's no way that I'm like sick with these two things. Like it has to be something like internal that's like like projecting it into my body. So
there is a little blue book called Heal Your Body by Louise Hay. You can look up specific things. If I remember correctly, the thyroid, not speaking up, not speaking your truth, letting people railroad you, and not having good boundaries. So this is where the speech comes from, and the thyroid gets out of whack. Is it upper back, lower back, or middle back?
It's mostly my upper back right now, but now it's like also affecting like my hips and my lower back. So
okay, because the back is support. If you look it up in the Louise Hay book, because I used to have a lot of lower back stuff. Lower back stuff's money. Upper back, I can't remember, but it's all support where you feel unsupported. So if you can get the copy of that book, I think you can go to Google and put in Louise Hay Heal Your Body book PDF, and I think you can look it up for free online. If you can't, it's a really skinny book that I'll just show you because I've got it here. I was looking it up for someone today. This is excellent. Every time something goes wrong, this is, so you see it's just a little skinny book, and it's got every ailment. You can look up arthritis, you can look up bowel cancer, you can look up, eczema, whatever it is. And she gives you the emotional cause, and then she gives you the affirmation to practice with it. So that's a good start. But I still think when you're sick, you need to process old emotions, go back into the past, as in prior to being sick, what were you festering on that you eventually ended up sick? Because we fester on things and then it blows a gasket somewhere. So yeah, look at those three. Dr. Joe Dispenza has got fantastic testimonials. If you just go to YouTube, put in Dr. Joe Dispenza and then put in lower back, or put in thyroid, put in keywords, there will be someone that shares their success story on that, and you can just listen to that. And then hopefully there'll be some information in the description as to what you can go and look at, what you can do in more detail to help yourself with that condition.
Thank you so much. And in terms of so for example, like when I do go to like therapy and stuff, should I like be like with the thought of like I'm already healed, or like this is healing me? So I just don't know if like the emphasis and the difference of those like statements are gonna create like different circumstances.
Yes, I would aim for I am healthy. That's jumping past all that, because if I'm healing myself or I'm healing, it's still you're not healed, you're in transition. So you got to jump ahead in time. And ahead in time is you're healed and you're looking back at yourself still going through the journey. That would be the point you'd be standing in. So I would practice I am healthy.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Kathleen, do you want to hop in before I go on with the law and the promise?
I was just going to tell a quick thing about the self-love.
Yes, go ahead.
I guess this has been 23 years ago. I had been separated and was in the process of divorce for at least 4 years, but I had been out for at least 2.5 when this happened, and I was practicing all this self-love. I wasn't looking for anybody. I was just happy to have my freedom and be on my own. And I was, one particular morning, I was doing this meditation of self-love so much. The whole universe, I was feeling so much love from the universe and loving myself. And I was just in this wonderful, happy place. And I was going to my job, my business, and I'd parked my car and I was walking across the street. And the person I'm with now, I had met. He had come in my shop and we talked, and I thought he was cute and all, but I just friends. Well, that morning he comes running up to me with a dozen roses and gives them to me. And I'm so thrilled because I didn't even see them as coming from him. I saw them as coming from the universe, just loving me. And I remember my father, he was very cautious and didn't want me getting involved with anyone. And he said, what's this guy doing bringing you flowers? I said, what? It didn't even dawn on me the guy had brought the flowers, right? Brought the roses. I was so much in love with the universe and the universe that I wasn't even looking at that guy. And I was like, what? I said, first brought me a dozen roses, you know. Of course,
oh, that's
20 years now, but it was like, it was just that I loved myself and the universe was loving me and I was loving the universe. So I didn't even look at the other person, you know, so he was right there. So he was just bringing the roses.
That's fabulous. And that's a great example that you just get into the state. You actually got into the state, but not only that, Kathleen, in that area of your life, you've been able to hold the state for 20 years well enough to have an amazing relationship. Yeah.
Yes. That's why now if I could just get into the universe loves me so much to bring me this money.
It's coming. It's coming.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to continue on with our sweet Neville doing his thing. Where am I up to? Okay. Okay, we've got a little story now. Through the use of her imagination, this talented young artist has made her dream a reality. Ever since I entered into the art field, I have enjoyed doing sketches and paintings for children's rooms. Now, for those of you that haven't been in these Law and the Promise groups, what I suggest is when we're going through a story or going through different bits, think from the place of what is it that I can extract from this story that would be of use for me to actually apply to my current situation that I'm having trouble with. Okay? Because Neville has to get off the page and jump into your life and actually, you know, get some good results for you. Now, however, I had been discouraged by advisors and friends who were far more experienced in the field than I. They liked my work, admired my talent, but said I would not get recognition or pay for this type of work. Somehow I always felt I would. But how? Then last fall, I heard your lectures and read your books, and I decided to let my imagination create the reality I desired. This is what I did daily. I imagined I was in a gallery. There was a great deal of excitement about me. On the wall hung my art, only mine, a one-woman show, and I saw red stars on many of my pictures. This would indicate that they had been sold. This is what happened. Just before Christmas, I did a mobile for a friend who showed it in turn to a friend of hers who owns an art import shop in Pasadena. He expressed a desire to meet me, so I took a few samples of my work along, and when he looked at the very first painting, he said he would like to give me a one-woman show in the spring. The night of the opening, April 17th, an interior decorator came and liked and commissioned me to do a collage for a little boy's room, which will appear in the September issue of Good Housekeeping for the 1961 House of the Year. Later, during the showing, another decorator came and admired my work so much, he asked if he might arrange for me to meet the right interior decorators and the right owners of galleries who would buy and display my work properly. Incidentally, the show was a financial success for the owner of the gallery as well as me. The interesting thing about this is that seemingly these three men came to me out of the blue. Certainly, I made no effort during the time of my imagining to contact anyone, but now I am getting recognition and I have a market for my work. And now I know without a shadow of a doubt that there is no when you seriously apply this principle that imagination creates reality. So what's great about this story is, having been discouraged by advisors, friends who were more experienced and obviously a bit arrogant, thinking that they could say to this person, you're not going to get recognition or pay for this type of work. What an amazing thing to prove these people wrong, because they thought they knew more than her and they thought they were more qualified, more successful, and that they could pass comment. So we could say, those people were her pushed out at that time because she wasn't feeling very secure within herself. But what's great is the timeline roughly, she said just before Christmas. So let's say end of November, early December, and then all the way to the night of the opening, April. So you're looking at, say, December, January, February, March. You're looking at about 4.5 months of a timeline for the change from the effort that this person put in. So what a wonderful thing. This is, you know, especially for people that do creative work, because, you know, the whole creative people don't make money is a common thing. It's a common collective consciousness thought amongst creative people. So she tested the potter and proved his creativity in performance. Only the indolent mind would fail to rise to this challenge. Paul states, the Spirit of God dwells in you. Now, examine yourselves to see whether you are holding to your faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? Unless, indeed, you fail to meet the test. I hope you will find out that we have not failed. Now, obviously, Neville talks about, you know, the structure of believing in Jesus. If you are not that way inclined, you know, and you've got your own religion, then substitute that. I think that's perfectly fine. There's not one way around the wheel, but it's the Christ in us. I would say the infinite intelligence in us. I would say the source in us. I would say God, whatever word you prefer, you know, because I know sometimes a lot of this religious stuff puts people off Neville. So sift through, take what you like and leave the rest. If all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. What is he talking about? He gets a bit wordy, and this is one of those examples. Now, basically, it's, excuse me, for something to be made on the outside, it has to start with an imaginal thought by someone. Whether it's the chair before you, whether it is the jumper I am wearing, whether it is the car you drive. Someone had to come up with an idea and then do something about the idea that popped into their head. Everything you see started off as an idea. So that's why imagination creates reality is the most important and the first cab off the rank, so to speak. Okay, now, it should not be difficult for man to test himself to find out who this creator in himself is. The test will prove to man that his imagination is the one who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. So you're calling into existence what you desire by where you put your thoughts, where you put your mental pictures, your mental words, your mental thoughts, and your emotional response with those thoughts, because feelings are generated most of the time by what you think. You have a thought, then you have a feeling. You look at the phone ringing and you go, oh my God, there's my mum ringing. There's your thought, there's your emotional response, all in about 5 seconds. There's just a simple example of it, if you don't get on with your mother. Okay? Now, the potter's presence in us is inferred from what he does there. We cannot see him there as one, not ourselves. The nature of the potter, Jesus Christ, is to create, and there is no creation without him. Okay, so the potter in us, the one that shapes, how do you shape things that you want on the outside? Through where you linger emotionally, mentally. Where do you linger? So it starts with you, and it starts with where you focus. Every recorded story in this book is just such a test, as Paul asked the Corinthians to make. God really and truly exists in every man, in every human being. God wholly becomes us. He is not our virtue, but our real selves, our imagination. I mean, Neville always says God is our human imagination. I remember when I first heard that, I thought, that's weird. How can God be my imagination? But that's where the pinnacle of focus is. It's like everything happens through the mind. The sickness starts in the mind. The healing starts in the mind. The trappedness starts in the mind. The freedom begins in the mind. So you have to hop out of that groove to change your external experience. And once you stop trying to get other people to change and you do your internal work to focus on solutions and then see things unfold, wow, the feeling of security and power that that begins to give you, it's an amazing thing. It is the most empowering thing of all. Now, the following illustrations from the mineral world may help us to see how supreme imagining and human imagining could be one and the same power, yet be vastly different in their creativity. Diamond is the world's hardest mineral. Graphite used in lead pencils is one of the softest. Yet both minerals are pure carbon. The vast difference in the properties of the two forms of carbon is believed to be caused by a different arrangement of the carbon atoms. But whether the difference is produced by a different arrangement of the carbon atoms or not, all agree that diamond and graphite are one substance, pure carbon. The purpose of life is the creative realization of desire. Man lacking desire could not exist efficiently in a world of continuous problems, requiring continuous solutions. So this is where we, I think, become more adult, more spiritually mature. It's that you give up your habit of complaining, give up your habit of spending and lingering too much time on the problem. You stop talking to friends about problems. You stop going over problems. You start repeating the problem to yourself before you go to sleep. And you go, okay, problem this, solution would be that. Now let me take my focus and move it over here. And let me be someone who commits to getting over there as often as possible, because we'll go back to the problem, especially late at night, early in the morning, they're danger zones, or waking up when you go to the toilet and you come back. You lay in bed, you haven't fallen asleep yet, and then it starts. It's the danger moments in the day. So it's important to be aware of the danger zones and then say, okay, I need to focus on what I want. And the other danger zone would be, I would say, after work when you've had a long day and you're tired. As soon as you're tired, you need to drink water, you need to eat, you need to rest. That's when you're more negative because you've outputted too much, or you've outputted, for the whole week and you've got no reserves. So watch your danger zones and go, okay, I'm going to attend to what I need to get myself back to zero. And then once I'm at zero, then I'm going to push it further forward by doing my imaginal scenes. But I find trying to do imaginal scenes when you've had a long day at work, it doesn't work. You don't have the right fuel in the tank at that time. So pick your moment. It's more concentrated, effective if you do so. Okay. Now, the purpose of life is the creative realization of desire. Man lacking desire could not exist efficiently in a world of continuous problems requiring continuous solutions. A desire is an awareness of something we lack or need to make life more enjoyable. So that's interesting. Very simply said, if you have a desire, it's because you don't have something yet. If you've already got the house, you've already got the amazing job, you've already got the $1 million, you're not desiring it again because you've got it already. So a desire highlights that awareness of something that we're currently lacking in this moment. Okay. Desires always have some personal gain in view. So yeah, usually it's feel more loved, feel more free, feel more happy, have more time, especially more time, more love, and more money, the top three. Desire always have some personal gain in view. the greater the anticipated gain, the more intense the desire. So when you absolutely, like I said to my friend while I was in the Indian restaurant, oh, I so want to go to India with anguish. That moment, I was feeling intensely trapped and I wanted to be free to travel. That's what that moment tells me now, 20 years on. I felt trapped and suffocated because I could never have enough time off, and I felt I was never getting paid enough. And that's why I said that to her with the anguish that I did, because I felt trapped. But I was focused more on the trappedness than the living in the end of being in India, walking around, enjoying beautiful food and amazing visual surroundings and the beautiful colors. So if I'd done that, yes, I did get to India, but it took me a lot longer than it probably, if I'd known what I know now, it probably would have happened a lot quicker. But you get and you build a muscle. You build it slowly over time. Now, the greater the anticipated gain, the more intense the desire. There is no really unselfish desire. Even when our desire is for another, we are still seeking to gratify desire. To attain our desire, we should imagine scenes implying their fulfillment and enact the scene in our imagination, if only momentarily, with a joy sufficiently felt within its limits to make it natural. So when you first do an imaginal scene, or you first want something and you start creating an imaginal scene that you're going to loop, it won't feel natural. It will feel weird. It will feel like, hang on, where do I go next in my mind? It feels a little bit awkward. So as you go over it and you do it for a day, a week, 2 weeks, it will become more natural. That's through repetition and consistency. It is like a child dressing up and playing queen. We must imagine we are what we would like to be. We must act it in imagination first, not as a spectator, as an actor. So you must look out your own eyes, not be seeing yourself up there on stage. Okay? This lady imaginatively played queen by being where she wanted to be in her imagination. She was the true actor in this theater. My desire was to attend a matinee performance of a famous pantomime currently playing in one of the largest theaters in our city. Because of the intimate nature of this art, I wanted to sit in the orchestra, but I didn't even have the price of a balcony ticket. That night, I determined to have this pleasure for myself. In my imagination, I fell asleep watching the wondrous performer. In my imaginal act, I sat in the orchestra center seat and heard the applause as the curtain rose and the artist came on stage. And I actually felt this intense excitement of this experience. The next day, the day of the matinee performance, my financial condition had not changed. I had exactly $1.37 in my purse. I knew I must use the dollar to buy gas for my car. God, isn't that nice to think gas was $1? It's long gone that time. But I also knew I had faithfully slept in the feeling of being at that performance. So I dressed myself for the theater. So she was acting as if, while changing articles from one purse to another, I found a dollar bill and 45 cents in change hidden in the pocket of my seldom used opera purse. I grinned to myself, realizing that gasoline money had been given to me, so would the balance of my theater ticket be given to me? So isn't that nice? She's already thinking, hey, thanks. This is covered. I wonder if the rest is going to be covered. So she's stretching her imagination to the possibility of getting to where she wants to go. And remember, she's under a time crunch and a timeline. Now, is this a life or death situation? No. But she was playing around with getting to where she wanted to go, which was to enjoy a night at the theater. Standing before the ticket window, my confidence dwindled as I gazed at the prices, and I saw $3.75 for orchestra seats. With a feeling of dismay, I turned away quickly and walked across the street to a cafe for a cup of tea. I had spent 16 cents on my tea before I remembered seeing the price of balcony seats on the ticket window list. Hurriedly, I counted my change and found I had $1.66 left. Running back to the theater, I bought the cheapest seat available, which cost $1.55. With 1 dime left in my purse, I went through the entrance, up to the usher, tore my ticket in half, saying, "Upstairs left, please." The performance was about to begin, but ignoring the usher's instructions, I walked into the main floor ladies' restroom. Still determined to sit in the orchestra section, I sat down, closed my eyes, and kept my inward sight riveted on the stage from the direction of the orchestra. At that moment, a group of women walked into the restroom, all talking at once, but I heard only one conversation as a woman speaking to her companion said, "But I waited and waited until the last moment. Then she called and said she couldn't make it. I would have given her ticket away, but it's too late now." Not realizing it, I handed the usher both tickets and he tore them in half before I could stop him. I almost laughed aloud. Getting up, I walked over to this lady and asked if I might use the extra ticket she had instead of the balcony seat I had bought. She was charming and kindly invited me to join her party. The ticket she handed me was for the orchestra section, center seat, 6 rows from the stage. I sat in that seat only moments before the curtain rose on a performance I had witnessed the night before from that seat in my imagination. JR. Wow. Sitting in the bathroom, still holding the vision. $1 something in your purse. Like, nice work. Talk about persistence. Even though she got a bit discouraged, she still went through the motions. We must actually be in imagination. It is one thing to think of the end and another thing to think from the end. And this woman shows us she thought from the end. The from bit is sitting in that bathroom and imagining being in center stage, looking across and seeing the performance. To think from the end, to enact the end, is to create reality. The interactions must correspond to the actions we would physically perform after these things should be. I'm going to repeat that last bit because it is important. The interactions must correspond to the actions we would physically perform after these things should be. So her sitting in the bathroom, sitting in the seat in imagination, looking forward, and the orchestra is right there and she's not viewing it from the balcony seat. That is her going through the actions we would perform after these things would be. She actually did this. To live wisely, we must be aware of our imaginal activity and to see it, that it is faithfully shaping the end we desire. The world is clay. Our imagination is the potter. We should always imagine ends that are of value or promise well. He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence. So it's not acting before you can desire. Now, this woman didn't act until the fruit was ripe, so to speak. She heard the conversation. The external shifted enough for her to step out of the little, where she was sitting in the bathroom. And then hearing that conversation, she stepped into it. Powerful. What's done flows from what's imagined. So what you see on the outside is flowing from where you've been mentally. So what are you flowing towards? Because of what you have imagined. What have you been imagining? Outward forms reveal the imaginings of man. So this is really exciting because you can basically use what that woman did as a template. She was, there was no, I've got $5 in my wallet, I can just go and buy the ticket. No, that wasn't an option. She was obviously, It's like she was stepping into doing a rich person's thing when she was having a poor person's wallet at that moment. And that took a leap of faith. I run a small business, solely owned. And a few years ago, it seemed that my venture would end in failure. For some months, sales had fallen steadily, and I found myself in a financial jam, along with thousands of other small businessmen, as this period spanned one of our country's minor recessions. I was badly in debt and needed at least $3,000 almost immediately. My auditors advised me to close my doors and try to salvage what I could. Instead, I turned to my imagination. I knew your teaching, but had never actually attempted to solve any problem in this manner. I was frankly skeptical of the entire idea that imagination can create reality, but I was also desperate, and desperation forced me to test your teaching. I imagined my office receiving $4,000 unexpectedly in remittances due. This money would have come from new orders, as my accounts would have to come from new orders, as my accounts receivable were practically non-existent. But this seemed far-fetched, as I hadn't received this much in sales during the last 4 months or more. Nevertheless, I kept my imaginal picture of receiving this amount of money steadily before me for 3 days. Early, the fourth morning, a customer I had not heard from in months called me on the telephone asking me to come and see him personally. I was to bring a quotation previously given to him for machinery needed by his factory. The quotation was months old, but I dug it out of my files and I lost no time in arriving at his office that day. I wrote out the order, which he signed, but I saw no immediate help for me in the transaction, as the equipment he wanted would take 4 to 6 months for factory delivery. And of course, my customer didn't have to pay for it until delivered. I thanked him for the order and rose to leave. He stopped me at the door and handed me a check for a little over $4,000, saying, I want to pay for the merchandise now in advance for tax purposes. You know, you don't mind? No, I didn't mind. I realized what had just happened that moment. I took that check in my hands. Within 3 days, my imaginal act had done for me what I hadn't been able to do in months of desperate financial shuffling. I know now that imagination could have brought $40,000 into my business just as easily as $4,000. O Lord, thou art our Father. We are the clay and thou art our potter. We are all work of thy hand. So again, using the imagination, and this one, 3 to 4 days to get the check in their hand. After all this desperation and financial shuffling, he kept that imaginal picture of receiving this amount of money steadily before him for 3 days. That's not long. What a good amount of focus investment that paid off. So it's changing the financial fear. It's changing the anguish. It's changing the anxiety. It's changing the maybe anger, worry. There was a lot of emotional stuff going on around money. And this person decided, even though he didn't believe and was skeptical, to try it. So desperation sometimes is a great thing, because the desperation then propels you to do something different rather than keep trying to rearrange the chairs on the Titanic, which is financially shuffling from a desperate emotional state. So fabulous story. Fabulous story. Now, we've got half an hour. I'm going to start chapter 12 on attitudes. Mental things are alone real. What is called corporeal, nobody knows of its dwelling place. It is in fallacy and its existence as imposture. Where is the existence out of mind or thought? Where is it but in the mind of a fool? Blake. So it's, where are you dwelling? where are you dwelling mentally? And that is something that we all need to keep in check. And I do think, you know, having periods of imaginal scenes can be a good thing. And to remind yourself to do it, setting alarms on your phone, I think, is a very practical and easy thing to do to fit in with your schedule and what free time you have. Because we forget. Memory, though faulty, is adequate to the call for sameness. If we remember another as we have known him, we recreate him in that image, and the past will be recognized in the present. So, if you imagine someone, say, healthy, and they've now become very, very sick, pasting over the top of what you see, it's like you're pasting images. You're pasting an image of desire over the current image of what is. So in the case of someone being sick, you would see them with rosy cheeks. They're carrying the right amount of weight. You see the twinkle in their eye, and you see them saying, I haven't felt this good for ages. That would be really helping someone and really becoming someone who is assisting your friend, your relative, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if there is room for improvement, we should reconstruct him with new content. Visualize him as we would like him to be, rather than have him be the burden of our memory of him. Everything possible to be believed is an image of truth. The following story is by one who believes that imagining creates reality, and acting on this belief changed his attitude towards a stranger and bore witness to this change in reality. More than 20 years ago, when I was a green farm boy, newly arrived in Boston to attend school, a panhandler asked me for money for a meal. Although the money I had was pitifully insufficient for my own needs, I gave him what was in my pocket. A few hours later, the same man, by this time staggering drunk, stopped me again and asked me for money. I was so outraged to think the money I could so ill afford had been put to such use. I made myself a solemn pledge that I would never again listen to the plea of a street beggar. Through the years, I kept my pledge, but every time I refused anyone, my conscience needled me. I felt guilty, even to the point of developing a sharp pain in my stomach, but I couldn't bring myself to unbend. The early part of this year, a man stopped me as I was walking my dog and asked for money so he could eat. True to the old pledge, I refused him. His manner was gracious as he accepted my refusal. He even admired my dog and spoke of a family in New York State he knew that raised Cocker Spaniels. This time my conscience was really pricking me. As he went on his way, I was determined to remake that scene as I wished it had been. So I stopped right there on the street, closed my eyes for only a few moments, and enacted the scene differently. In my imagination, I had the same man approach me. Only this time he opened the conversation by admiring my dog. After we had talked a moment, I had him say, I don't like to ask you this, but I really need something to eat. I have a job that begins tomorrow morning, but I've been out of work and tonight I am hungry. I then reached into my imaginary pocket. I pulled out an imaginary $5 bill and I gladly gave it to him. This imaginal act immediately dissolved the guilt, feeling, and the pain. I know from your teaching that an imaginal act is fact. So I knew that I could grant anyone what he asked, and by faith in the imaginal act, consent to the reality of him having it. 4 months later, as I was again walking my dog, the same man approached me and opened the conversation by admiring my dog. Here's a beautiful dog, he said. Young man, I don't suppose you remember me. but a while back, I asked you for some money and you very kindly said no. I said kindly because if you had given it to me, I would still be asking for money. Instead, I got a job that very next morning, and now I'm on my feet and have some self-respect again. I knew his job was a fact when I imagined it that night some 4 months before, but I won't deny there was immense satisfaction in having him appear in the flesh to confirm it. FB. I have no silver and gold, but I give you what I have. None is to be discarded. All must be saved. And our imagination reshapes memory is the process whereby this salvation is brought to pass. To condemn the man for having lost his way is to punish the already punished. Oh, whom should I pity if I pity not the sinner who has gone astray? Not what the man was, but what he may become should be our imaginal activity. And the greatest example of that is when Jesus saw the sick and he saw them healthy. He rose up in consciousness and saw them as healed. So this is no different. It doesn't matter whether it's a job or money or health. It's holding someone in the wonderful, enriched end result. Now, what I would say about this, don't use imagination to imagine things for others unless you know that's what they want. So you don't want to interfere with people's desires. It's giving them what they desire. So this guy knew that the man that commented on his dog needed food and money, and he imagined him with those things for a very short amount of time. He said, for only a few moments. And isn't it wonderful? Because he said, I imagine him saying, I have a job that begins tomorrow morning. And the guy said to him, I got a job that very morning. He didn't say afternoon. He didn't say night. He didn't say next week. He used the same words. So what a wonderful thing. A few moments of effort. And then the satisfaction of having him appear to confirm it. Nice one. I mean, talk about God revealing in the most amazing things to us, or infinite spirit, it's just fabulous. Now, if we imagine no worse of him than he of himself, he would pass as excellent. It's not the man at his best, but the imaginist exercising the spirit of forgiveness that performs the miracle. Imagining with new content transformed both the man who asked and the man who gave. This is what's great, is it's like two halves of a nut. Both people, it's like they come together and it creates a whole. It's wonderful. Imagining has not yet had its due in the systems, either of moralists or educators. Isn't that true? Still to this day. Do they teach imagining in school? No. Do they teach imagining at university? No. But who cares? We can do it irregardless of that. When it does, there will be the opening of the prison to those who are bound. Nothing has existence for us save through the memory we have of it. Therefore, we should remember it not as it was, unless, of course, it was altogether desirable, but as we desire it to be. Insomuch as imagining is creative, our memory of another either furthers or hinders him and makes his upward or downward way easier and swifter. There is no coal of character so dead that it will not glow and flame if not slightly turned. Okay, so you have your hand up. You have to unmute yourself. One new message. Oh, okay. You've messages it in the thread. Okay, hang on. Specifically, I'm with someone, and due to old beliefs, my mother has been very unsupportive and resisting me getting together with this person. Should I generally affirm that she is on board now, or should I just visualize us being married? Well, in the light of what we've just read, and I know you've probably written this question before we read that, I think it's applying what we just read to your situation. So it really is about you're seeing your mother's you pushed out. You're seeing your mother being resistant. You're seeing her, you're projecting out law of assumption. Mum's unsupportive. Mum's resisting me. Mum's unsupportive. Mum's resisting me. You're just in the problem. So if you want to get to where you want to go, it's, I think, just visualizing being married. Just step over the whole thing. So it's applying the solution to the situation rather than continually looking at what mum's doing and having an emotional reaction. So that would be the suggestion. It's not necessarily just affirming that she's on board, because that's you trying to change her with affirmations. You're better off feeling married, free, happy, content. I love my husband, he loves me. Then you bypass mother altogether in the pothole, because mum is a big handbrake in your head, you see. Okay? Big hugs, no problem. Gayatri, you've got a little question.
It's not a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to add on to what you said earlier to MMM.
Yes.
So it's like many times we think it's very good to manifest in steps, or to like go and micromanage things, like this person is not supportive, or this environment is not conducive to what I want or what I want to achieve. But I really got that when you said the statement, go to the end, it is like, I feel that it's just a game of states. Where you are, it's just like how you're trying to shift yourself directly to the state of the wish fulfilled. And I think more as earlier, I used to have so much of resistance when I'm like, if I want to be with my specific person, the whole world is against me. How is it going to happen and all? But now, as I practice that, I have one single statement. All the universal forces, known and unknown, visible and invisible, are all working together to fulfill my heart's desire. Beautiful. And I am with the man I want, and I'm leading a beautiful and wonderful life. And nice. I get everything I want. And this one statement, it actually initially I had so much of resistance, but now easily I'm able to get into the state. Even if I'm crying, it's like very quick shift. So I just, when you said no, don't imagine like, oh, it's not happening. No call came. Oh, other people are not supportive. Everyone is asking me about marriage. Yeah. What do and then I just say the statement and I just shift there. So it's going to the end. Yeah. Rather than even imagining, I feel you sometimes say, no, you should get into the feeling of how you would feel if it was done. Yeah. So I will try to keep it for 20, 30 seconds. That's it. So I just wanted to add on. Yeah. To
I love how you said it's a game of states. I love that, because it is. If you want to get married, if you want to be in a great relationship, I mean, Kathleen's little example of getting flowers, she was playing a game between her and the universe and really getting lost in it. And it was like, she was almost like a bit unaware of the outside. She was so consumed. It was so beautifully explained when she shared that. So if you can make getting into love more important than the relationship, then the relationship will be, it's like it pops into the room and kind of shocks you, because You're no longer looking for the other person, the relationship, the marriage, the engagement, having a baby to make you feel fulfilled. You are fulfilled. You are happy. You've dissolved your beliefs of I'm getting too old, or I'm single and it's a disease, or I'm culturally, this isn't good enough and I feel inadequate, you know, whatever it is, because there's all sorts of different things that come into it. And it depends on the country you were born in, the culture, the religion, the family, the community beliefs. All of these things shape you and where you stand, but you can choose to go, there's certain things about my family, my community, my religion, my country that I don't agree with. You don't have to agree with everything. You can step outside, and thank goodness for that. I mean, what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing. And the power that we have to be able to shift states. If you make the state of feeling relaxed, letting go, knowing that you are adequate and secure, if you make that the most important thing in your day, honestly, it's like it is the greatest thing that affects everything, the business, the bank account, you know, I mean, it's so fascinating. I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of times that, say I work 3 or 4 days and then I go, right, I'm going to go and have a day off now. I need to get off the screen. I need to go into the fresh air. I need to go into nature. I want to go to this amazing place somewhere and go and eat. And I literally get up, shower, get ready, and I go, yes, I'm going to go and do this today. And I don't look at my phone for the whole day. And I get home and I've been inundated with work. And that happens so often. And yet sometimes when I've been working a lot and I start getting a bit, you know, where I got this thing and I'm feeling overloaded and I feel like I'm feeling not great emotionally because I'm doing too much, then it grinds everything to a halt. So the mental state, the emotional state affects the bank account, the relationship, the opportunities, the health condition. If you spend more time meditating, getting into a state of love and going out and doing things that make you feel incredibly good, irregardless of what it is, because we've all got different things we love, as long as it's not destructive to yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically, knock yourself out, go and do it as often as you can. And that is the best fuel in the tank for attracting the marriage, the engagement, the amazing, you know, a lot of women want a good, amazing, beautiful ring or whatever. All of these things are just things to play around with. And this is a treasure hunt of imaginal fun. It's fun, you know, it's like getting back into that, how kids used to be when they draw, when you say, hey, let's use our imagination, do this. Kids just get right into it. They don't go, why would I do that? They just go, okay. And they follow along. So we have to get back into, I think, the fun of this and the joy of this and the being more relaxed. Because I think as adults, we get more timeline focused and we get more, I want this faster than I'm getting it. You know, not everybody, but a lot of us are. It's like, especially women, I will say, because of the job I do, 90% of women want things faster than men, especially around relationships. I think men are slower and more turtle-like. I think women are more rabbit-like in the relationship area. I'm not talking about other areas. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's very true.
Yeah. And I do think, you know, that with women, especially women that want children, the body clock issue is ticking is an issue. So not all women want children, but those that do, that's what creates a bit more rabbit behavior, because, you know, you've got nature trumps all. You can do law of attraction, law of assumption. You can do all these different laws. You can do Neville. You can do all this stuff. But if you are a doctor, you would know what's the maximum age a woman can have a child. There is a cutoff day. So we can't beat nature. We never will. Nature, you could law of attraction and law of assumption 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but you're not going to have a baby at 60. So nature, we have to yield to nature, and we have to have humility and say, okay, I have got time pressure or time restraints. So if I'm wanting to have a child with someone who doesn't want one, there needs to be a point where if you've imagined having a child with them and it's not happening, that you back off and go, I'm going to yield to nature, and it might be time for me to go and have a look at perhaps finding a new mate if this is a burning thing for me. I want a child issue. Yeah.
I got that.
Oh, yeah. What is, Gayatri, you being a doctor, what is the cutoff age for women for children?
But yeah, I've heard, I don't know, my mom says like it's 40, 42 or, yeah, but I have seen women having children around 50 as well. So,
Okay.
but yeah, because they get the menopause very late. But
Yes, some
depends
people
on
do.
how, yeah, because it depends on their genetics or what kind of food they have and all, and how well they've taken care of themselves.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
also.
Yeah, because
Some
some women have
people get
menopause early.
and early also, and they do,
Yeah.
and even at the early age, you cannot conceive because of a lot of other
Yeah,
things that is happening to your body. Because
For
as
sure.
females, yeah, so that pressure is always there. But this thing is that I don't want to have a baby, or I just don't want to like I want to have a baby. I don't want to get married just because I want to have a kid.
Mm. You
That
want
is
me
not,
to get married for you?
yeah. And
Yeah, sure.
so if I want to have a kid, I can just go and do it. There are various, you can have surrogacy, you have IVF, you have, yeah, donors who are ready to give you. If you're
Yeah.
really so interested to have a kid by yourself, like if that is the only thing, burning thing,
Yes.
but that's not the true fact, actually. So it also points down to your self-love, right? Do you just
Yeah.
want to have, yeah, like you want to have kids, so that's why you're going to get married.
Oh.
Then you look as the other person as some baby producing machine, or you being
Yeah, yeah.
someone,
It's-
I need this person so that I can become pregnant and have a baby.
It's a big topic, isn't it? It's a big topic for women, because it's, yeah, I want a partner, I want to get married, and I want to have a child. There's 3 levels to this, and there's, yes and no to both sides, as in not every woman wants the same thing. So, yeah, no, it's
Yeah, but
interesting.
more I look at you, I am feeling, though I have come from India and there is a lot of pressure and stuff,
Yeah.
but the way you are living a life. So I ultimately, with this person, with this SP, it's not about marriage. It's not about marriage. It's about the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not, probably the marriage gives it a label so that there is a lot of convenience in the relationship.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
people don't keep asking. And but it's like I'm learning from you, really. The way you are living your life, and many people, it's not like you don't need to live for your society. You need to live for yourself, right?
That's right. Even if that goes against, I've got a friend who's gay, and he was born in a country that totally is against being gay, and there are quite harmful consequences if you get caught. Now, what do you do in that case? Do you put up with this and know that your country basically totally despises your kind? He made a decision to move to another country. Now, he still goes back to his country of birth, but he can be more free in another country. So there are some things within countries and cultures that really shut the door on the things that you want and shame you for who you are. So there's levels of, sometimes it's just disapproval, and other times it's outright, you are not acceptable as you are. So it's powerful stuff to be doing self-love. See, his self-love work generated him having a desire to move to another country to be free of that. So very interesting.
I think the specific person thing, as used to say in many videos, is just an icing on a piece of cake.
Yeah.
It is more of your own discovery, and like you are discovering where you are just pulled down, right?
Yeah.
It's not about I want to manifest this person so that I can be good. Now I
Yeah.
realized I want to manifest this person because it is an inspiration for me to go forward. That's it. He acts as an inspiration there. It's fine if
That's
you're not
right.
there.
That's right.
But-
It kind of makes you rise up in going, how can I improve where I'm at to match where I need to be to attract what it is I desire? Yeah.
And more of the state thing that you said, no, the more every time you drop out of the state,
Yeah.
very badly,
Yeah.
there is an underlying belief they're holding, or how you react to certain situations that can really pull you down. So you will know your state is falling down, and then wait a minute, where did I fall down?
Yeah.
So how and which story am I running at the back of my mind?
Yes.
That is pulling me out of the state.
That's
and then
right.
now I'm going to the belief.
Yeah.
So yeah, the entire Neville's thing, that mental diet thing or the state thing,
Yeah.
it has so many layers inside it.
It does. It's like a never ending. It's like the more you think you understand, you see more beliefs, and less of the state that you need to be in. So you can perfect yourself upon the situation that's kicking your backside, that person, that job, my bank account, my body, my restriction, and feeling the suffering and not feeling free, not feeling loved, not feeling wealthy, feeling trapped, feeling angry, feeling brokenhearted. I love how you said that. It is a game of states. You're playing against yourself all day long, against you, not against anybody. How well am I doing when I'm by myself? That's the game.
And I'm blaming all the people around me, the SPs in my life, the people in my life. Poor me. I'm here to blame everyone with so much of inside going on. Right? Amazing.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Good conversation. So wonderful questions tonight. So we've made it to the halfway through the chapter on attitudes. So we will continue that in session number 9. In June, I will do a YouTube to let you know, and I will send out an email to those of you that are on the email list to let you know. I haven't set up the session, Sabina, for session 9. I'm only going to set it up next week. I do 1 week at a time because we need fresh Zoom links so that we keep the trolls out. So yes, anybody can get on the email list. Just email me. I'll just type my email on here. And if you can't, like say you don't copy this in time or whatever, my email address is in the description of every single YouTube video. So a person of interest 2014@gmail.com. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of day. Take little Neville into your day and put the wonderful stories. If there was one story that really was helpful for you, read it over and then go, okay, I'm going to break down the mechanics of this story, and then I'm going to look at how do I use this as a cookie cutter and apply it to what I'm doing. The simpler the scenes, the more it evokes emotion, you've got a good scene. That's how you gauge it. Okay. So you can unmute yourselves and say goodbye, everybody, if you want to. And
bye, Agnes. Love you.
Goodbye, Agnes. Thank you
so much.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining in today.